Good morning. Beautiful morning out. It's nice and chilly this morning, which hasn't been the case for a while. First, I want to say sorry for not getting a video out last week. My wife kind of surprised me with a baby moon. It's kind of like a honeymoon for having a kid. For those of you who've watched for a little while, you know my wife is pregnant, and she is due in October, so probably about 1 month away. So we're getting kind of ramped up for that, and she surprised me with like one kind of like final trip before the baby comes. So we drove down to Atlanta and went to the Georgia Aquarium, and we had a blast. It was a very, relaxing trip. We didn't plan too much, just basically went out to dinner one night and enjoyed the aquarium. And my dad watched the farm, so it was a good trip, but did kind of interrupt the filming schedule. But we're back with another video, and today I kind of wanted to talk to you guys kind of about just our pig setup, why we raise pigs, and some of the kind of mistakes we've made in raising pigs. And before we get too far into that, I'm walking over to the only time we use a stationary paddock is when one of our pigs is expecting piglets. So we're on piglet watch. So this is Opal, and this is kind of the paddock I have set up for her right now. We have a bunch of wood chips in here, so we're doing kind of a deep bedding, a bunch of straw, and she is going to be due, she's due any day now. So yeah, here on our farm, we raise Kune pigs and Idaho pasture pigs. We were in the process of getting out of the Kunis. It just takes a really long time for them to grow, and even when they are grown, they still aren't that big. The meat tastes great, but it's just, sorry about that. It's just too much time, and we're liking the Idaho pasture pigs. There you go. Yeah, so kind of going over our setup. So we have a number of areas where the pigs are. Right now we have 4 different areas. Well, 5, I guess. We have Opal here in the paddock. We have 3 Kunis way off in the front of our property. We have Red, who's over in the kind of 2-wire paddocks that I have set up over there. We have a bunch of pigs in another paddock over here that I need to separate, and then we have our boar Onyx, who's in our woods. All right, as I get closer to these pigs in the front of our property, these are 3 Kunis. They'll probably start squeaking at me because I think it's feeding time, but I don't have any feed. So out here we have 3 Kunis, and they are in this Premier One electric net. Out here in the pastures, I really like using this net. It's pretty easy to deploy. It can get tangled, it can get frustrated. You kind of have to have a system in place on how you gather the fencing. But yeah, so we usually try to set up, this is 2 fences worth. I don't know if you can quite see that, but this is 2 fences worth of Premier One netting. We have an energizer, solar energizer, and we have their water, and then a shelter. These 3 guys have been in this little kind of collapsible shelter I've been using, and they're pretty good during the summertime. It just keeps the sun off of them. Yeah, buddies. All right, as we walk over here, I'm gonna, why do we raise pigs? And the answer, I don't have a clear, distinct answer. It was kind of, we wanted to try them out. We like pork, definitely good flavorful meat. And when we were back in Alabama, we were like, let's get some pigs eventually. And we kind of set up some infrastructure for it, bought some netting, did research on waters and stuff like that. And we thought, okay, in a year we're gonna get pigs. And then I had a coworker who had a little farm, and he rented a bunch of acres from another family, and they basically sold the farm out from under him and sold it to developers. So he had to get out of the farm pretty quickly. So he ended up buying 2 pigs off of him, and we had every intention of just raising them up, butchering them, and putting them in our freezer. And over the course of the next, I think, year or so, there were 2 coonies, 2 ladies. We ended up finding a boar. This is red. Yep, and you want some food too. And so we ended up deciding to try to breed them, and we bred them, and I think only one took at first, and then she ended up being like a bad mom, like not intentionally, but she had 8 piglets and ended up inadvertently killing 5 of them. And then a while later we bred them both again. They both took, and they both ended up inadvertently killing, and I forget exactly, I have it written down inside, but they ended up killing some more. And so out of all of the piglets we've had, we have the 3 older ones we just saw, and then we have 6 more down here, and so that's 9 total out of probably close to 20 piglets. So so we ended up deciding to introduce them to freezer camp like we originally planned. And now we have Red left, who's our cooney boar, and he's in, let me flip you around. So he's in our paddock system over here. We have 8 paddocks. This paddock system is great. It's easy to move. You just move pig from one to the next, but I'm not in love with where they are. So right now there's a 2-wire system, and it's hard to keep the bottom wire cleared. So I want to revisit this paddock system. Also right now I only have the 1 pig in here. I should have, we have 9 pigs in one spot down there. I should have them up here and move them through. But again, I'm trying to get some into the woods, and so it's just not bad, but it's not working out how I quite envisioned it. And partly because this is one of the first things we did on the property, is we just got these paddocks set up. And we really should have just kind of kept an eye on the property for a while more before we decided to do this. But it's not the end of the world. We didn't ruin the land. We didn't dig out a bunch of land and put a moat in or something like that, something stupid. But I'm probably gonna eventually take up this side, and eventually I kind of want to run just a single line of T-posts kind of through the property here, go down, and then go around way over to that bunkhouse and run just a single line through the center of the property that I can link smaller paddocks to. The other issue that I did with this side of the paddocks, I built this side first, is I built only, I think they're maybe 5 or 6 foot, maybe 5.5 feet gates. They're just cut down hog panels, and they work, but I can't fit the structure through. On this side, I built wider gates, so I can I can actually fit their structure through the gate. Over here, I have to de-energize everything and then take down part of the fence, bring the shelter up and over to get to the next spot. So just a little more work. All right, I'm gonna walk to the next set of pigs and get back to kind of the story. Yeah, we ended up breeding those pigs. Didn't quite work out for the moms, but we've gone to a number of like pig butchering workshops and stuff like that. This last year, we ended up taking a couple pigs to, well, it was those two pigs, the moms. We took them to a processor, so we got that experience just to see how it was going. We ended up raising 2 feeder pigs that we processed ourselves on the farm, and I don't think I really filmed any of that, but it was a good time. I had a couple buddies come down. You've probably seen them, Jason from Solar Land and Ben from the Homestead. They came down and helped me process those pigs, and kind of over the years we ended up just really like raising pigs. They're fairly easy to raise. You gotta make sure they have food and water, and just make sure they have a good fence. And that was another issue we had, another mistake we made with our feeder pigs, is we had them in this electric net, which they were fine with, and then we tried to switch them to a single wire, I think it was a 2-wire system, back over here behind in those trees. And the timing was a little off, didn't really realize, but we had already gotten the Idaho pasture pigs, and our boar was fairly close to them, but I guess one of the 2 girls was in heat, and she didn't care that the fence kind of zapped her, and so she kept getting out, which would then get the other one out. And there was a time at which they ran completely into these woods behind us, and this is like 20 acres of, it's a neighboring property, and they're actually on the other side of the creek, so this is like their backyard, or back 20 acres. And I didn't know who they were, and I was like, I thought we had lost both pigs, and it was maybe a month, maybe even a couple weeks before we were supposed to process them, and I thought we just lost like all that hard work and all the feed and all this stuff. But they ended up kept coming back to his paddock, and so I eventually just had to kind of build a fence around and let her kind of come out of heat and stop trying to bug him. And then once that happened, we moved them in, and they were fine back there. But yeah, these guys, these are the 9 pigs we have going on right now. There's 3 Idaho pasture pigs. You can see they're bigger. And then we have 6 coonies from 2 different litters. So the bigger coonies are the same age as the Idaho pasture pigs, but they're maybe a quarter smaller. And I don't normally like to have this many pigs in this one paddock, but I'm moving all of the coonies back down to this corner, and then I'm trying to get the 3 Idaho pasture pigs into the woods over here to help me clear out some of the growth that's starting to happen in there. What's nice about this spot is in the morning it is pretty shaded, and then in the afternoon it does get a decent amount of sun, but it allows them to kind of run around for a good chunk of the day before it gets too sunny. And also the time of year, it's now getting a lot cooler, so they've been a lot happier. We raise grazing pigs, so the Idaho pasture pigs and the coonies, they're a grazing pig, not a tilling pig, so they're not as great for if you wanted to have them till this whole spot up and turn it into like a garden or something of that nature. These guys won't do too much of that. They're a lot more gentle on the land, but it's nice because you can leave them in a spot a little longer. I think they've been here 2 weeks, which is a little longer than I like to keep them here, but as you can see, there's still plenty of grass. There's still, that side over there is a little bit torn up because we had a lot of rain earlier when I got them here, and so their water would overflow and they would just turn it excuse me, they would turn it into a little bit of a wallow. But yeah, I think in this next week, I'm gonna try to get, again, the 3 moved into the woods. We'll see how the single wire does with these ones, and then we'll get the rest moved over just in the next spot over there. I'm trying to think if there's any other like kind of mistakes we've made. We have gotten kind of in a pickle with, we order feed. Oh, I just hit a bit of a hole. We do order feed by the 1,000-pound tote, and if you're not conscious of when that's about to run out, when you go to order new, you might run into a gap. So we feed all these pigs. They've either been fed an organic feed, which has gotten really, really expensive, and we've now switched over to a non-GMO feed, which basically more or less could be considered organic. It's got a lot more testing done on it, and we're really happy with it. But we have at times ran out of feed and had to go and buy like just store-bought feed, which I don't like doing. There is an organic brand, but our little Tractor Supply usually only has like 1 or 2 bags of it at a time. And so, again, not ideal, but, you know, we got to keep them fed. So yeah, there's, that's been, I guess, kind of an issue. And then during the summertime is making sure you're up on their water, because you'll look at it, sometimes you'll look at the water and it'll be full, and then they'll like mess up the water nipple and all the water will leak out. So usually every time I feed them, I try to check their water and just make sure that everything's good, and then have like spare water nipples around. Make sure you have that drill bit that cuts that hole, and I try to have an extra barrel or 2 just in case they like damage one of the waters. Sometimes they'll knock the water over, and then the nipple will like puncture through the hole and kind of like waller it out, so you can't really get a seal anymore. So yeah, there's that. But here's Onyx. This is our boar. He's kind of separated from his lady right now. She's, again, the one up in the birthing paddock, in the midwifery suite. But he's been great just on a single wire. And you can see this goes into our woods a good bit. And you can see all the little bushes and trees and stuff are kind of no more in his area. So we've been liking this. I think the next time we move him, we're actually going to get him a little bit further into the woods, and kind of go from there. Like our woods go, it's kind of hard to tell, but pretty far back. We probably have 2 to 3 acres back here of woods. So this is Onyx's paddock. And what's nice about the single wire is that with all this like chipped up wood stuff that happened from the forestry mulching, that a lot of these branches like won't get caught up super bad on the single wire. If we had the netting in here, then you know, anything that kind of falls on it can kind of mess it up and cause, well, here's a little bit of an issue area. So, you know, this is coming right up to the fence line. So usually I'll just come in and kind of kick it through. So I'll definitely put the camera down at some point and fix that. So another reason that we like raising, we do like raising coonies. It was just their size has not been ideal. Like this guy's, you know, he's super big. But we like these breeds because they're super gentle breeds. You can get in there. I'm not gonna say that every cooney or Idaho pasture pig boar is like as gentle as the ones we have, but they are super gentle. What do you think, buddy? What do you think, buddy? Yeah. I'm still cautious around them though, just because they are big animals. And he's getting little tusks in right now, and Red has some pretty, you know, they're like 2 or 3 inches. You don't really want to get caught by a stray one of those, intentional or unintentionally. So yeah, that's kind of us a quick walk around, and why we kind of raise pigs and how our setup is. As far as taking them to the processor or processing them ourselves, like what do we like better? What would we recommend? It kind of just depends on your skill level, your willingness to get your hands dirty, and kind of the cost. And then the major factor for us is if we want to be able to sell the meat, then you have to get it done at a processor. We can't process it on our farm. So we kind of only process at a processor out of necessity of wanting to sell the meat. So this year we have 6 pigs that are going to be due up to be processed in a few months. And I think we will take a couple to the processor because we do want to be able to continue to sell meat. And then we'll probably process a number ourselves. And that's kind of going to be dependent on the kid being born in a month. So we'll do what we can. I do like the process of processing a pig. Not necessarily the shooting of it, but just taking this, half of a hog and turning it into cuts that you recognize is just kind of a cool process. So yeah, we're probably gonna leave it there. Hopefully this isn't too long of a video, but thanks for watching. Have a good night.